Good.
Oh, good? Perfect.
I'll stay here too then.
Okay. Hey, I haven't seen you in class for a long time.
I know. I've been lazy.
So we're going to get rolling with talking about a very hot topic today. And that topic is listings. Listings are the commodity, right? No. So listings are the hot commodity, right? Because guess what? There's low inventory. So getting listings that's competitive, it's, in a point that people are going, well, why do I really even need you? I could pretty much pay somebody to just put the sign in the yard and be done with it. Other agents are really stepping up their game in order to gain the listings. So do you guys have to do that? But I want to start with listings. I want to talk about some of the first steps. How many in the room right now have a good, solid pre-listing package? Pre-listing. Don't raise your hands all at once.
I had one, but now I came here, so I have to revamp it all.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about what might be in that pre-listing package, okay? Some great things I've seen from listing agents across the country. One of the top things you're gonna wanna have. Now let me back up. Let me talk about why you actually need one and how you can use it. Now, when you go to meet with a seller, typically, and you have your market analysis, your presentation, what's the first thing they wanna hear out of your mouth?
How much you charging?
Actually, that's second. The first thing is, how much my house can be sell for? You can't get past that. You have to go into what's my house worth, right? So they're not listening about you, your marketing, anything until you talk to them about the price. And if they don't like the price you suggest, what happens to the rest of the meeting?
You're screwed.
Swirls down the toilet, right? So a pre-listing presentation or package offers a chance to get some messages across to that seller before you talk about price and while they're open to it. Okay, so what goes into that presentation? Poor Gio's like this, trying to see me past other people. You get the Pinnacle curse back there. You're always in the back. You guys should just be right up here.
So I didn't want to interrupt all of that good conversation.
I see.
That's going on.
Okay, so here's the thing. Think about a pre-listing presentation, what you want them to see. Now, you're going to have to tackle the pricing issue when you meet with them. So how about the social proof issue? Why you? Why am I going to use Bow over Lucy over here? So how many people have solid testimonials and references right now? I can tell you what, I used to list properties without a listing presentation at all. I brought in 103 handwritten testimonials before we did things online. And they'd ask, well, tell me about you. Why should I work with you? Thump, that's why. And I never had to go further than that. Social proof is still one of the strongest value propositions you can offer when other people, not yourself, talk about how great it is to work with you. So that can all go into a pre-listing presentation. And by the way, your presentation can be a hard copy drop-off, leave behind, and or a digital. I like digital better because it's more modern. A thumb drive or a Google Doc or Google Drive, presentation, whatever it is, it can be sent to them to look professional. And it's going to get them looking at you like, oh, I want to actually hear what you have to say. This is your chance to talk about you, okay? Because when it comes time to meet with them and talk about the listing, who are you talking about? Who's it about at that point? Them. Aaron's like me still. Aaron thinks it's all about him all the time. Yeah, it's always about you. Yeah. So the reality is at the listing presentation, it's all about them, their needs. Their wants, what they're trying to accomplish, and what you're going to do to help facilitate that. But now in the pre-listing presentation, it's a chance for you to talk about you. A, the social proof you have. B, some of the marketing. Do you want to give them every bit of marketing? No, but show them some marketing examples. Because now they're going to be open to seeing that. Oh, I really like Roxy. I want to work with her because, gosh, she has great testimonials. She had a great little video she did. She's got some cool looking marketing. I want to hear what she has to say. You're building excitement around your own personal brand before you even meet them. It's a 10-minute, endeavor for that seller, but you can get them to watch that before you meet with them. That's the beauty. So if you don't have a good pre-listing presentation, make one. It's important. At the end of the day, can we all get a listing if we just, cut the commission and just, say, well, screw it, I just want the listing, I'll go to 4%. That's the easy way. The hard way is establishing enough value with yourself that people are willing to pay you more than someone else. Is it a fair statement that there's downward pressure on commissions right now? There is. And there's companies coming out left and right advocating that. There's agents coming out left and right advocating that. Here's the good news. More people are working with realtors today than they were 5 years ago. For less for sale by owners right now than there has been like ever. But the assumption is information is getting easier to gain. Sellers have better access to information, and realtors' roles are changing due to things like syndication and Zillow. Our roles have changed a bit, so they don't see enough value in a common realtor. They don't want to pay us what they used to, especially when we're talking in higher priced properties. We have to establish the value. So you have to have a presentation that's going to do that. So your main goal is with your pre-listing presentation is to really establish that value, personal branding value. Okay, and some of the marketing pieces that you can do for them. But let's talk about what happens at the actual listing presentation, at the actual appointment. Couple key things. Who's the real decision maker 90% of the time? Wife. Every woman in this room just smiled when I said that. Every guy didn't even pick their eyes up off their paper. Literally, I wish I had a picture of that. Aaron, I mean, all you guys were like, uh-huh. And all the girls were like, uh-huh. I wish I had that picture. So step number one, when you walk into the room, you have to really, I don't want to use the word control the wife, but in a way that's kind of what has to happen. You have to take control of the situation, and you have to be able to talk and deal with that wife or spouse or female, probably even more than the male. That's not a sexist statement. It's just a fact. It's what happens. So you have to be controlling that situation. Where do you want to do your listing presentation, by the way? Do you want to do it in the living room? Kitchen. All day long. All day long. A darker, dimly lit living room on a couch where people are just relaxed, not where you want to be. In the kitchen. Okay. Do you want them to give you the tour of the house, or do you want to walk through and go see the things you need to see?
I like it when they tour.
Any other thoughts on that?
Tell you what they really like about it.
So there's two different thought processes on this, and it comes down to NLP or basic. I don't want to use body language, but subliminal messaging. As a listing agent, you need to take a little bit of control. If you're being led around by the seller, when it comes time to talk about things like commissions and plans, you still might be led around by the seller. To establish yourself as having some dominance in that relationship, you may have to be like, you know what? We're going to look at your bedroom, but I'm going to look at the kitchen because I know it's great, but I got to start upstairs and get some photos. It's a good idea to do that, believe it or not. And this is not coming from just me. This is like actual research has shown this.
Can I interject why I do it differently?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason why I do it, have them show me around, is because I learn a lot about what's a hot button for them.
Of course.
If they're walking around telling me what they've improved for the last 20 years and they see value in all of that, I know I have to justify some of that somewhere.
So let's talk about a hybrid of that. And I'm not going to suggest you shouldn't do that, but I'd still suggest that you take control of where you go, and then you're asking the questions of, tell me about this room, or tell me about what you like about this. But lead the conversation and lead the tour if you can. And you have to do those hot buttons, because if you don't know their hot buttons, you don't know how to really talk to them, right? You have to do that. So let's talk about the conversation yes.
I tell them, we sit down, talk to them, and I say, okay, I'm going to take a quick tour of the home, and I'm going to view it through the eyes of a buyer.
Exactly. And then I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk about all the things you love about the house, right? Because I want to see this non-biasedly. If I'm walking in to buy the house. That's a very good point. Now, are they always going to love that? They're going to feel like, well, I want to give you the tour. But again, if you're establishing some control of like, I'm leading the charge here. As a listing agent, you got to know there's two different distinct personalities. A buyer's agent, very nurturing. It's nurture, hand-holding, making you feel good. A listing agent is, take control. It's more direct. It's more marketing. It's more, yes. It's more of a high D power position is what it is. And I'm not talking about somebody that does a listing here and there. I'm talking about a true blue listing agent. That's really the formula. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the conversation or the listing presentation itself. Now, a listing presentation, very few people even have a good one that they're proud of. I should not do this. I'm the worst absolute person in the world when it comes to holding secrets, and I get kicked for it all the time. But I will give you an early preview to something we're doing in here, and it'll be onboarded in the next 4 weeks. So we just purchased an online marketing suite built in LA for LA luxury listing agents. It's got do-it-yourself listing presentations. I mean, it's got like, we're building 50 to 60 different pages you guys can choose from. I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this. You can customize your own listing presentations. Direct mail. It's got print, like I'm talking about commercial quality print. So for brochures and flyers, but I have to point this out. We're talking about LA, Beverly Hills, that area of luxury. So when you think of luxury in this area with Sotheby's, it's better than that. The marketing actually looks at that level or better. And it's going to be here for you guys with the click of a button, all branded to you. And again, direct mail, business cards, signs. We're talking listing presentations, buyer's presentations, all on one single login that you guys just go click, 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 and boom, you're done. 3 clicks and done.
Is it free or do we have to pay?
There will be a charge for it because it's super expensive for us, but it's going to be like $30 a month or $35 a month. You know, we still have we're still keeping listings to leads, which is sort of our lower end common, marketing suite. But the upgraded stuff you're going to see is huge, absolutely huge. And yeah, we're paying thousands of dollars a month for it, so we have to do a per user charge. But this thing is going to be absolutely insane. Now, when we build a listing presentation on this, we're talking about being able to drop and drag whatever pages you like. So if you don't need to do staging or don't want to do staging, you just leave that page out. If you don't want to do the massive open house, you leave that page out. Okay, so you build what you like. That's going to be the beauty of it. So when you sit down with a seller and you show them a high quality listing presentation, you're going to talk to them about the marketing. But this is the difference of what you guys need to do and understand if you are going to succeed at a high level. Every agent out there is going to have marketing. I don't care if you're from here or Coldwell Banker or Remax, it doesn't matter. We're all coming in and saying, here's my marketing plan. But it usually stops there. If you truly want to do listings the correct way, you've got to do this in multiple tiers. Tier 1 is marketing. We all do it. And guess what? It's all going to the same places. We're all syndicating to Zillow. We're all syndicating to Realtor.com. And I can show you those reports to see how many people view it, how many people clicked on it, how many people wanted more information and hit yes, I want more info and became a lead to somebody. I can show you all that. Everybody can do that. Okay, but what happens beyond the marketing? This is where you guys need to build in your process. What happens when? And remember this statement. In fact, write it down if you have a notebook. What happens when? Jen, your marketing looks awesome. Great. Bao, your marketing looks awesome. What happens if somebody makes a phone call? What deploys when somebody picks up a phone and says, I want to talk about this listing? And they don't even leave a message. They call, you don't answer. What then? What happens when somebody clicks a button on Zillow because they want more info? What happens?
4 people call.
Right. But is it you?
Nope.
Right. Can it be you? It can. If you set it up that way. Sure you can. You can pay for the exclusive. Especially on Realtor.com you can. Yeah, Realtor.com you can. Yep. But you can.
On Realtor.com it's called enhanced listing.
Yeah. Yep. So, and that's my point. You can talk about that. Okay. So, and by the way, Realtor.com has a better filtration system for more quality leads than Zillow. Here's the thing. What happens when? What happens operationally when somebody wants more information or wants to talk? Now, again, this is part of my operations and deployment strategy when I'm talking to a seller. We all know 36% of people that inquire on a property get 0 response at all. 36% get 0 response at all. That's a stat. And that's from an MIT study that was done, I think, in 2014, if I remember right. Out of the people that do get a response, 5 to 9 hours. That's the response time on average. Average buyer does not pick up if you try to engage with them. If you don't catch them when they're trying to call you and you're not back to them within 15 seconds, the chance of getting them back on the phone between attempt 5 and attempt 12 is where 80% of people will actually pick the phone up again. And yet realtors by average will try twice. So what happens when? What's your operation? What's your plan? What gets deployed when somebody wants info, because I don't care how pretty your marketing is. What matters is when somebody engages with it, what automation triggers. So when I'm talking marketing, I'm also talking about platforms. I'm talking about things like call action. Because when somebody responds or engages, they cannot escape that wheelhouse. They're going to have automated responders. They're going to have text campaigns. And I'm going to be notified that so-and-so is not only a lead because they didn't just call my cell phone. They called a direct line on call action. I know it's about that property. And I know who they are. I know their name. I know where they live. And I know all kinds of information about them because call action provides it. I can explain that to a seller. I can brand that as my no buyer left behind. They can't escape my wheelhouse. So everybody's got pretty marketing. Everybody's going to Zillow. Everybody's going to Realtor.com. But what happens when somebody responds? Let me show you what happens when somebody actually engages with us. Operationally, what happens when an offer comes in? Can you explain that process? Can you explain your offer negotiation philosophy? Every day in here, I have a conversation with agents when they say, oh man, I'm losing this buyer because the inspection went south or the appraisal's low. And I say, where's your backup offer? We don't have one. Did you have multiples? Yes, we did, but we don't have a backup offer. And I look at them and say, that is such a lost opportunity. Explain this to your sellers, guys. There's major failure points where sellers lose major amounts of money, massive amounts of money. Improper exposure is one of them. I still laugh at the guy that's got his thumb in his iPhone picture. You know, I mean, that's like my favorite. Or, you know, he's in the mirror. You know, again, my favorite. So most people have quality photos, but you'll see cheap agents out there, especially on less expensive properties, that the exposure looks like it's terrible.
Or less commission people.
Exactly. Yep. So the exposure looks terrible. Nobody engages with it. So you can see website analytics, how long people are actually staying on your page. How many people are viewing it? Like, let's say it shows up in 23,000 Zillow searches and only has 14 click-throughs. Is that not a good thing? 23,000 searches, only 14 people clicked and not one person wanted more info. That's a bad deal. Operationally, what happens with me is I can tell you the reporting, I can tell you the analytics when you list with me, how your listing is trending and performing. And I can tell you what, I've got a listing online that's performing 98% better than the entire market. And I can show you the report to back that up. Again, that's great for your pre-listing presentation. Here's a stat that you should know about my listings. Or how about in your pre-listing presentation that the last 4 listings you sold within 48 hours of hitting the market and sold at 103% of asking price. Is that not an awesome social proof statistic of why they should list with you? Now, operationally, we lose lots of money because of improper exposure. We also lose lots of money as a seller due to improper negotiation. So I'm going to go back to the backup offer. So what's our first place we start losing money as a seller after the offer is accepted? Inspection. Okay. So Amy comes to me and says, oh, you know, inspection, we had some issues. How do we always frame it? We've got some concerns. There's some issues. We need these addressed. We were asking for these 14 items to be fixed. And the listing agent goes, you know, oh, but you guys, you know, it's a great house and we had multiple offers and there's this rhetoric back and forth. And it's going to go into well, let's just do half of them. And I think the buyer will be satisfied. And you have the numbers up and it may cost $2,000 or $3,000 at times or more to get those done. $2,000 or $3,000 on a $300,000 house, that's 1%. You lost right there. So let me ask you this. Does that conversation get framed differently when I say, Amy, I understand your buyer's concerns. However, I've got a higher backup offer already signed. My seller has allowed me to share the information that you presented, including the inspection report. These buyers are fine with it, and they're going to move forward at a higher price. So we're not even going to fix a light bulb. Like literally, there's a burnt out light bulb. We're not even going to do that. Your buyers can either take it or send me a cancellation right away, and we're going to move forward. I just saved my seller at least 1% right there. What's another failure point? Appraisal. Okay. So what is your philosophy? What is your system to deal with low appraisal, especially when you're accepting offers, which you should not be accepting offers that you look like can't appraise, especially without a contingency plan. And that contingency plan should never be in writing because it's going to tip off the appraiser that, oh, hey, these guys are willing to, you know, pay it out of pocket, so I don't want to take the risk. Why does an appraiser not want to take the risk on a high appraisal? What happens if that thing goes south? What happens if that person doesn't pay their first mortgage payment? They're going to audit that file and say, why the hell did we approve this property when we can't resell it for what these guys bought it for? Appraisers are going to have to be careful on that. They don't want to give high values. They're doing it because they're getting pressure. Like the market's got upward pressure in pricing. So you're seeing appraisals loosen up a little bit. But we're still having like 1 out of 10 properties with low appraisals in the first time home buyer market especially. So with a 1 out of 10 odds that we're going to have an appraisal problem, what's your contingency plan? Do you have backup offers that have better financing? Are you taking the highest or the best offer up front? Do you have contingency plans to deal with that low appraisal? Have you had that conversation with the buyer? Have you checked that they've got the cash? Are you asking for bank statements or proof of funds that they've got the financial ability to close that gap if the appraisal's low? Most people are not. But operationally, I can explain to my seller, here's why that you're going to make more money working with me, because I'm not just going to advise you to take the highest offer, but the best. And we're going to have a contingency plan. We're going to have backup offers if we can get them. And if we have a property that looks high, or a purchase agreement that looks high in price, we're going to deal with how to deal with that low appraisal up front. We're going to have something in place that if it gets triggered, we get a solution. So then again, I may have just saved that seller another $5,000, $10,000, or whatever.
How do you do that without in writing?
So the conversation I had on one recently with this, one of our agents needed help in Wisconsin. I'm one of the licensed people there, so I stepped in. They were out of town. And so I didn't do the deal, I just negotiated for them. And the negotiations were centered around the appraisal. So I talked to the buyer, the listing agent, and they were worried about the appraisal. And I said, look, as a buyer's agent, I can tell you this, we don't want to put in writing that we're going to go, and close this gap out of pocket, because that's going to trigger the appraiser to maybe think that there's something wrong or they should, go lower. But here's what I can say. I've talked to my buyers. They do have some cash to allocate to this just in case. But what I'm really telling you is that cancellation is going to be a last-ditch effort. We are going to try to work something out. Now, other buyer's agents, like that was a buyer's agent in that situation, but other buyer's agents, when we have that conversation, like, oh no, my buyer would not come to the table with one dime. If they're saying that up front, we already know we could have a problem. If they're more flexible in the initial conversation, this is why we need to talk to our other agents on the other side. Back in the day when we used to, before the crash, before Zillow, we used to actually talk to people. That's a lost art today. So we have conversations. And if those conversations, turn out that we don't feel so good about what the buyer's position is, we might want to talk to the seller and go, I don't know if this is our offer. Because we got others that are interested for a little less money, $2,000 or $3,000, but they're more willing if they have to put money into this thing to keep it together. So again, advisor versus, order taker. Be an actual advisor. If I'm at a listing presentation explaining this philosophy, I'm showing them how I'm mitigating their loss just through skill set and process. Also, as a listing agent, if you're able to say, let me tell you about the process, what happens when an offer is actually accepted. It won't be me that calls you every day. I've got a great listing coordinator that's going to help me with that. Or I've got a transaction coordinator that's going to help me with that. You're going to hear from so-and-so and so-and-so. If you explain your process in a 30 or 40 point checklist of what happens in your listing, you also look more organized, like you actually have a process, which everybody usually stops when they start talking about their marketing. Look how beautiful my marketing is, and they have nothing else behind that. So the point is when you're talking to them about where you mitigate their loss, what happens operationally when things are deployed, and how you handle response time in real time, not 9 hours later. You tie those things together with a fantastic pre-listing presentation before you even meet with them. That conversation about your commission gets to be much, much easier. So yes, Jen, I understand that so-and-so would do it for 4.5%. And I understand you're asking me to do the same. The reason why you don't want me to do it the same is because everything that we're doing here is gauged and geared towards protecting your money. This is an insurance policy that you're going to have a better transaction and a better experience working with me. And you're going to pay the extra 1% to save you potentially 3, 4, 5%. How are their other agents' metrics on their last 4 listings? What's their plan of deployment after marketing? What does their process look like? My system is set up so you actually succeed and profit. And yes, it will cost 1% more, But the reason people buy warranties and insurance is to protect themselves from loss. That's what we're doing. That conversation gets so much easier when you have a real response other than, well, I'm just worth it. The reason you pay me, I just charge 5.5 or I just charge 6 because I'm worth it. Well, show me how. When you show them how, that conversation is very, very different. And I've had first and second year agents that we're working on this with that are defeating veterans because they can have that conversation. So important. Any questions? Anybody need coffee? Anybody need, what do we need to pick up the energy here, guys?
What's the name of the marketing thing company? I was just working on my new presentation for coming here, but I think I need to wait a month.
You're going to want to. I'm going to do a demo on this thing.
Design Center?
Nope. So Jessica, do you have the email from these guys again? I know the owner of it. I just can't remember the name of the suite. It's white labeled under us. I mean, it's literally going to be, a Realty Group marketing suite.
I just don't know about it when you did kind of.
Yeah, this just happened all in the last couple of days. I'm really bad with names.
I'll find it.
Follow-up boss.
We're integrated follow-up boss. We're in it now. So.
Now?
Mhm.
Okay, I asked you yesterday. You said wait a week.
Yep, we're in it now. But what we're doing is we're doing the broker stuff on it now.
Yeah.
So within probably by Monday or so, I think we'll be ready to start integrating others in. Yep. Any other questions on listings? This is a listing class and not one question or comment yet. So what do we got? Aaron, you look defeated back there.
No, it's great. We have
Okay,
a listing appointment tomorrow.
cool,
Yeah.
good.
And I think I want to go over my notes and just kind of.
Dial it in.
Mike Allison's 30-point checklist. for it.
44, close, yeah. But you can print off a checklist like that and make your own. That's tweaked to you. Yep.
That pre-listing package, you send them anything about the importance of time on market and pricing properly and stuff like that before you actually go out there and talk to them about pricing?
You definitely can. I like to stay away from pricing because that, to me, needs to be in person, handled very delicately. But what I do think you can do is send them like an RPR report, a generalized market statistic report is not a bad idea that you can include in that presentation as well.
Do you want me to?
I'm always a little hesitant to do that too, because again, that shows a price and you really don't know.
Or just, it honestly shows, like if you're going to talk to them about the importance of pricing properly before you actually talk to them about a price, it shows that you may be concerned of what they want to list for. And I don't want to make it come off that way. Like, just so you know, if you overprice, you're screwed. I don't want to have that conversation with them until we actually talk price, And another thing that you guys, I saw this happen a couple times and it's super simple, but people miss it. Do not fail to do a net sheet with your price. Do not fail to do that. I'll never forget this guy. First year agent, he did like 7 million or 7.5 million his first year, was killing it. And he came to a sales meeting back in like 2000. He's like, I lost this listing. I thought I had it and I lost it. And we all said, well, how? I failed to do the most important thing. I told him what the house would sell for, but I did not tell him what he'd walk away with. And another agent did.
Do you do this in one sitting or two, most of your listing presentations?
I used to do the 2-step, but now there's so many agents that are getting so good with their prep that I feel like if you walk away from that table, you are going to possibly lose it. So I used to be a big, firm believer in the 2-step process. You go there, you build rapport, you come back, talk about pricing. Now people are in such an instant Amazon, push a button and go mentality. I'm struggling with that myself.
Do you ask the question, because when I'm going through the house with somebody, I'll be talking to them and they're always talking, well, the neighbor house sold for this and this house sold for this. So I will ask the question, what do you believe the value of your property is today?
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm showing up with one number
Yep.
in my mind and their number could be very much low, sometimes it's exactly the same, then my presentation when I sit down
It's
with
geared
them
differently.
is
Yep.
completely different.
Yep.
If it's top two, we have this big gap. I will leave certain information with them, but then I'll say to them, let me go back to work and see if I can't get you that number.
So
And I'm coming back tomorrow at noon, I'm gonna
Yep.
do some more work, and I'm gonna try to get that number. And then I at least can show up if I can't get that 375 and I'm really thinking it should be 350, then I at least have proven that I have done more than the other guy.
So
Just browbeat them into 350.
what I would suggest is, again, kind of a hybrid. What I would do is I would say that you can do that work literally at their kitchen table to say, give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to pull the comps here again. I've actually, and this is a little bit out of the box, but I've actually went and previewed properties with people, and say, let's go schedule these for, tonight, and we'll go look at them, because here's the thing. What an appraiser is going to see is these numbers I'm looking at. It has to appraise, right? So that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at these comps. So I'm going to show you kind of the formula that they look at, because it still has to appraise. If you want $25,000, $30,000 more than what everybody else is selling for, we've got to go take a look at what's also available right now and get inside of it and see how it compares. Part of this is the past, the history, which is comps. Part of it's trend, future, where are things going. So, we can take a look at where it's going by going to see some active ones too. When I've done that, they walk in and they're like, yeah, this is really nice. And, after about the third with the first one, they always beat up, and mine's better. They see about 2 or 3 of them, they're like, I'm not feeling as confident. So I've had to do that a few times myself, but I always try to get them on a withhold. And this is another thing from the broker side of things. What you guys don't see, what we do, we get this call all the time. Oh, this, I didn't sign the listing contract and this, I didn't have a withhold and I lost the listing. What do I do? Or they want to list with somebody else or renegotiate. So I hate to leave that table without something signed, because right now we're seeing more and more that these people, again, they're online, they're clicking, they're talking to multiple agents, and somebody else can sneak right in behind you and list that property. So I always want to get them on some sort of withhold. You know what? We'll do a withhold. We'll put a price in here for right now. We'll list it in a week and a half. We'll do more research. If we need to change the price, we can do that. But I need to start marketing it to people ahead of time so we build some urgency around it before it hits the market. So, I just right now, I get that call all the time. Depressed, angry, I thought I had it, and, something happened. So I hate hearing that.
All right.
What do we got?
I'll show you their website.
Let me turn the light off.
I have it here. It doesn't really have
It doesn't have the
the
examples.
demo,
Yep.
but this is the example of it looks like on an iPad, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
So
really,
hold
it's
there.
really
Hold
neat
there.
that, yeah, it's really neat because it's the layout. It shows you all the pages. You just drag them and then you can
You
edit
create
them
your own.
just like you edit a PowerPoint. Or
It's
publisher
super easy.
file. It was really, really easy. And also you have access to all the data on there. It's branded for you, so that part stays the same on every page. But if you want to change content, it's super easy to just jump in rather than just have a tiny spot you can edit.
This was a $500,000 platform that they built. So this is not a cheap platform. This is something they put a lot of seed money into. All right. So that's what I had for you today, guys. Before we wrap up, anything more on listings? Bobby, you look like you want to go list houses right now.
I do.
All right.
Got a quote from Mike Bernard this morning
What's that?
on the Home Spotter app.
Yeah,
It said, this app is your home search fidget spinner.
it is.
Yeah.
It is for buyers, right? I mean,
You're at the park, you're gonna just.
that's what it is. Yep. Give it to them. Let them do it. All right. How about at home? Anybody have any questions?
And is it still in the theory you want to be the last one in if you can?
Absolutely, if you can. Some people argue that because, if you're really good at converting, like at the table, I've seen first person in that will get that signed, and they'll even cancel the appointments of the other agents for the seller. So you have to be careful of that. But I still am a believer of last one because I don't really fear the competition. I'm not worried that some superstar is going to walk in before me. Usually I want them to be lukewarm, excited, and then I'm going to blow them away and then get them signed. If they're lukewarm with somebody else and excited with me, I have more of a chance, I believe, to get them to actually sign right there. Yep.
So I'll unmute everybody at home for a second.
At home, any questions? No. Okay. All right. There you go, guys. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Good seeing you, man.